Awesome. So good to see everyone again. Thank you, Ross, for kicking this off. And yeah, I'm always pleased to start up these webinars. This one actually be a pretty easy one for me because we just have some super content today to deliver to you all. And just in my career, having been a large enterprise CIO and CTO for the past 30 years, it's just great to continue to learn and to expand and also find ways to further network with people, especially during the pandemic. Today, I'm super excited again to hear more from the RingCentral team. I have to tell you, as a former RingCentral customer and someone who advocates for this platform now in my current role, one of the things, again, as a CIO for a CTO for a telecom, being a part of that five nines platform and having that high availability and looking for that full integration is something that I'd just tell you I value greatly the RingCentral platform. So we're going to hear more about that today, and I'll be here just to kind of keep things rolling as needed. And really super excited today to introduce Chris and James coming to us live from the UK area. So without further ado, let me toss it over to you guys. And I know you've got some great content today, and we're really looking forward to digging in a little bit deeper of what you guys are bringing to the marketplace. And before I do that, just one other thing. When I first got into this whole platforming, in the pandemic, I think a lot of companies, like the ones I was working with at the time, took whatever they had and made the best out of it. I think now we have a chance to really look at a full stack and really go do a full look at really what the market has available, and the more complete stack and the more integrated and the more capable. I think you all are going to talk about that today. I'm really looking forward to hearing more. So again, over to you guys. Welcome.
Yes, thanks a million, Rob. And thanks everyone for your time today. I think Chris, my colleague, is going to be pulling up some slides that we're going to use just to set the scene. But just to introduce myself, firstly, I'm a solutions engineer by heart. I now look after the team, the solution team within RingCentral in the UK. I've been with RingCentral for over 6 years, so a lot of experience in bringing customers into the cloud, as Rob said, about platform, and getting them from legacy technologies into the more up-to-date communication platforms that are available. Chris, myself, Rob, Ross, we all greatly appreciate that you've taken the time out of your day to join us for this session. You've probably joined to understand this, as I've said and as Ross said, the trick of what you're missing with MS Teams. Like most of us today, hopefully some of you guys, you've experienced this shift into MS Teams and working remotely during the pandemic. So during this session, we want to share our experiences as technical consultants and obviously what we're seeing in the industry, as well as our customer experiences and how they tackle moving into a one app for all, one app interface to tackle all that enterprise-based messaging, video, calling, and hopefully highlight some of the gaps, some of the considerations, like we say, some of the tricks and tips that you think about when you move into that world. So not having to run around various systems, MS Teams has allowed organizations through the many productivity stats that have been coming out to work a lot faster than ever before. Simple, intuitive application that minimizes friction across your internal teams and also your external customers, all within one interface. So what have we been finding before I launch into some of these slides? And I'm hoping that the slides, I can't see the slides on the screen, I hope they are showing, and I hope Rob can give me a thumbs up there. Combining RingCentral's comprehensive platform, like Rob said, 5 nines availability and uptime globally as a voice network, combining that platform with Microsoft Teams or another market leader in that space, it really gives organizations stability. It's given organizations really stability, resilience across their global infrastructures, but overall massive value, consolidation obviously gains as well. So taking an integrated approach into message, video, phone, providing one app for that primary end user interface, but also we're going to show you today like how our solution helps. Think about them traditional technologies, the analog devices, across the estate. The users, the staff room phones, the operators, the people that don't actually sit in Teams. How does a Teams user or this one app interface, how do they call the old phone that's on the wall? Okay, so that's a bit of an intro to set the scene. Hopefully some of the things I'm talking about here are very familiar. And then, as I say, I'm trying to keep this punchy. As Rob said, we've got some really good content to go through. So what I want to do really is just talk through about 6 slides, and then hopefully get Chris into doing a demonstration of some of these perspectives, bringing to life some of the talk tracks I'll be running through. Okay, so Chris, if you want to move into the main slide, I think the guys have seen the agenda. They know who we are. So what I wanted to start off with, guys, is RingCentral is a market leader in the UCaaS space. We've got a lot of stability, a lot of external audits that you can read up on that. But working with Microsoft, it hasn't just been this explosion into Teams. This sort of journey with Microsoft has been continued. So even when it was back in Skype, we plug into Outlook, Meetings plugins, having 2 platforms combined, having a primary choice as an organization. This is our policy for communications, having resilience as well. So I often say, what do you use when Teams goes down to fault that application? We've been doing that with Microsoft for some time. And obviously with some of these logos that are on here, this goes back right the way back before Outlook as well. So we've got pedigree in working with Microsoft. Is there anything else you'd add to that, Chris, before we move on?
No, we're having daily conversations with customers who are interested in Microsoft, and especially within Microsoft Teams, because of COVID and the pandemic. Because of its usage and increased usage, we're having discussions on not only how can people make calls using the Microsoft stack, but also how we can extend calling to other parts of the Microsoft stack, including how do people record calls, how do people document calls within Dynamics. So it's a discussion we're having every day.
Yeah. And we say these integrations, if we want to move on, these integrations that we talk about, what do these sort of prove? It's the efficiency gains. It's keeping people within that particular interface that they need to stay on. One click to start calls. So when we've looked at integrations into Outlook and to the older technologies, the same that we've done with Teams is we don't just take one approach. That we try to give you guys organizations options. So we're going to focus quite heavily today on the middle experience, direct routing with Microsoft Teams. So what that means really is keeping Teams front of house, not really knowing RingCentral's voice network is behind the back of Teams. But we see as we've grown and as this has been developed, we've been offering customers other alternatives to integrate, which we're going to talk about. The main focus, the main point from that is to demonstrate choice. You have choice, and there's many benefits from having different and other options that come into here, from financial right the way through to technical and use case benefits. Is there anything else you'll add to this, Chris? And I know you're going to go into this quite a lot when you show the demonstration.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, not to add at this point.
Okay, so the next slide, Chris said the conversations we have on I'd say a daily basis is really showing customers that want to bring voice into Teams. What does that mean from like a building block perspective? So this slide shows the typical building blocks from left to right when you combine RingCentral with Microsoft, and if not, you don't have RingCentral in the fold to the far right. So we're seeing, like I say, when we talk about that value assessment that Rob mentioned and at the very start, we're seeing a lot of financial benefits here by combining the 2 platforms. If I take the first 2 columns to the left here, we're showing you that you don't actually need the phone system license within Teams to make calls. We can embed RingCentral directly in Teams, and in some use cases from a technical perspective, that's more beneficial from some of the enterprise feature set that RingCentral provides. As Rob said, a comprehensive platform. We've been doing UCaaS PBXs for some time. Using Teams as an enterprise global PBX is relatively new to a lot of organizations. So we can bridge that gap into thinking about technical ability as well as thinking about them in financial and existing contract restraints you have. But it's really about education here, showing customers that there are options again. but then making sure the customers are aware of them building blocks to design a solution that is based on their use case. Not ours, not our offering, not how we integrate, but based on them themselves. Is there anything else you'd like to add to this, Chris, before we move on?
No, nothing at this point.
Cool. So, mentioned earlier about that journey we've had with Microsoft, and I like to bring this slide up with a lot of organizations just to talk, emphasize mainly stability. I mentioned it earlier. Microsoft have now launched Teams as their go-to application for voice, but before that it was Skype, before that it was Link and other so systems developed. Throughout that time we've been playing in this UCaaS space, so Five9's voice globally, not just across a particular region, but actually across over 44 countries, we're offering that financial back stability, and that's even been through COVID. So we're bringing in investment into our network to work alongside Microsoft and give a consolidated, integrated approach, but also give that value and commitment from RingCentral. Is there anything else to add on that slide, Chris, before we start to lead into my use case?
No, not at this point.
Again, and I'm offering Chris time to speak because we have these conversations on a daily basis, and this is a constantly changing marketplace. Where we go with our integrations, where actually Teams is going to go in the next 2 to 3 years, we always make quite visible what our roadmap is over the next couple of years and how that fits in with your particular strategy. So if Teams is your video platform, how are we going to enhance that and help with your video strategy? If Teams is a direct routing option and everything's behind that, how are we going to enhance and really work alongside Microsoft and create a development roadmap that's based on that type of approach? And this last slide really, and the slide next, I wanted to talk about real use cases. So we talk about this designs. We base our solutions on outcomes. So every organization is different, have different unique use cases, a lot of similarities, but every organization we find is different. And understanding their internal initiatives, how they're incentivizing their employees to get to them initiatives over the next 2 or 3 years, layering that back to our roadmaps, technology roadmaps, and also then layering it back into other applications, like, as I say, Teams roadmaps. This is all important to think about how we see the next phase of technology. The next 2 or 3 years, it's going to be ever changing. Having two market leaders together as a platform combined, as I say, the overall value offering, we're seeing major advantages. We're seeing that's what the shift is for most of our organizations. If we can move to the last slide, as I say, I really wanted to bring all of this, these talk tracks, the building blocks, understanding you as an organization, what's your strategy, what's our strategy. All of this comes into play when you start to think about the power of what technology can do today. I want to tee Chris up to his demonstration to make this real, but TaylorMade Golf is a well-known global golf manufacturer. They're actually a customer in RingCentral, and I was aligned as the solution engineer. So this is one of many organizations that have gone through this journey. TaylorMade went through this journey pre-COVID, so they already had a focus of MS Teams. They already had the directive, a clear vision that was given to them, to their IT directors. They wanted to have a Microsoft focus, so not just from an end user in Teams, right the way into their experience centers where golf clubs are being swung to test with Rory, and all of that is Microsoft Rooms led and enterprise grade video collaboration through Teams. But the voice element they wanted was a global was a problem when it comes to that solution. So they come to RingCentral, as I say, and their direction was completely MS Teams. And we took that direction, we took their guidance, we worked with them over a period of months, 6 to 9 months. But what we found is we went forward with a solution that was Teams focused. We delivered that on that solution, and halfway through the deployment, actually TaylorMade realized there were some use cases that weren't identified in different departments during that discovery phase. The power of the two platforms together, we've delivered a converged approach. So, like I said earlier, them users that are staff room phones, how do we integrate the operator who's front of house into this whole wide Teams environment? These are some of the niches that hadn't really been thought of. And what we did is, as I say, because we had the agility in the platform, we could shift. We provided a convergent approach and tailor-made the direction still is that integrated approach. It's still the same clear vision we've had. Shift and change in technical, but again, that's why I talk about resilience. That's why I talk about having these platforms together really gives customers a good step forward into the new world of technologies. I am a very fast-talking Northern UK guy, so not as articulated well as Rob, but hopefully the content I've shared today has been useful. It's been relevant, and hopefully explains some of the, as I say, the nuances, the considerations when we start to think about this new way of working. Am I okay to hand over to yourself, Chris, to walk the guys through what's going to be shown today from a demonstration, and I would say the more entertaining part of the session?
Oh yes, definitely, James. Thank you very much, thanks for the warm up. So today, everyone, I'm going to be taking you through a demonstration of what direct routing is. But first, I'm just going to articulate what direct routing actually is. In simple terms, what we're doing is we're plumbing the RingCentral Cloud PBX infrastructure into the back of the Microsoft Teams voice framework. So what that essentially means on the far left, from a user perspective, everything in terms of call taking and call making is all Microsoft Teams. There's no other application, there's no other client plugin, there's no other logon. It's all within Microsoft Teams. And because we're plumbing it into the voice infrastructure, it means that wherever anyone is logged into Microsoft Teams, whether it be in the web browser, desktop application, or the mobile application, you are still able to make or receive calls to other people in the organization, as well as make calls outside of the organization to customers, as well as take calls that are coming into the organization via RVRs, call queues, or directly. So this way, towards the right-hand side, this is the plumbing underneath everything. So this is where all the numbers are being handled, this is where all the call routing is being handled, and from a user perspective, it's all Microsoft Teams. But because of taking this approach, you're also able to leverage all of our other integrations into our business applications that we support integration with. So in our application gallery, you can still integrate with those systems. Apologies. There we go. But you can still use Microsoft Teams effectively as an endpoint. So from a RingCentral perspective, we don't discriminate. So whether it be a RingCentral phone, a Microsoft Teams phone, or a desk phone, conference phone, or a deck phone in a store or a warehouse, you can make or receive calls on them. So that's what we're going to focus on today as part of the demonstration. So let's look at Microsoft Teams on the desktop. So what we have here is Microsoft Teams, and a prerequisite of enabling direct routing within Microsoft Teams is the Microsoft for the Microsoft Teams phone system add-on license. So once that is added on, then you have the ability to make calls. And with the plumbing in the background, the thing that's doing all the calls behind the scenes is RingCentral. So let's see a call coming in from someone from within the organization. So of course, we know what Teams VoIP calling is, but here we have a call coming in that's within Microsoft Teams, but behind the scenes, it's a RingCentral call. So someone else in the organization using RingCentral is making a call to me, to my RingCentral number, and it's being routed through Microsoft Teams. So I have all the usual call controls, call health, device settings, holding calls, stacking up calls as well, the ability to do blind transfer and consultative transfer as well, as we know as Team VoIP users today. In terms of making calls, wherever there's a phone number in Microsoft Teams, I'm able to make a call externally. So here I have the dialer, courtesy of the phone system add-on license, but also wherever there is a phone number in a chat session, for example. Of course, today I can still initiate a VoIP call with Carrie-Anne Moss, but what if Carrie-Anne was someone outside of my organization, someone who is on another Microsoft Teams tenant? This could also be the support group, for example. And what we can do, thanks to directory synchronization, is bring in those numbers to initiate a call with that. So here I can call Carrie back on her extension, make an outbound call, and then I'm connected to her, and then play the greeting, and then I answer the call on the device. I can also make calls manually, just to show you that it being real. There we go. So let's call that number. And call. There we go. And just answer that call, and we're straight in. So I'm having the ability, I'm able to call outside over the PSTN network, but doing so from within Microsoft Teams. And the thing that is enabling that is RingCentral and RingCentral Direct Routing. Now, of course, we can do a lot more. Of course, you have call history. So wherever you have access to Microsoft Teams, you can get to that call history. But also from a Microsoft Teams on a mobile device perspective, you have calls and the ability to make phone calls as well. For every call that I've been making to Microsoft Teams, it also comes through to your Microsoft Teams mobile application. So you will get calls wherever you're logged in and can switch between devices as well. Come back to Microsoft Teams. Also, voicemail. We support voicemail. We can actually provide and distribute that voicemail into Microsoft Teams, but we also provide the ability to do transcription and distribution of voicemail, whether it be for user extensions as well as call queues or hunt groups within RingCentral. But we can also bring a bit of RingCentral to Microsoft Teams. So within RingCentral, everyone has an extension, everyone has a phone number. And in this world, in a direct routing scenario, Microsoft Teams is the phone. So here, I can, as a user, I can configure how my extension behaves and how I receive calls and choose how I want to receive calls. So here I can set my out of hours, what my working hours are. I can also configure what my screening, greeting, and hold music is, as well as manage any block calls. And here under call handling, I can choose how I want to receive calls. So right now, all calls are coming through to my Microsoft Teams endpoint. But I might also want calls to come through to my cellular number. I may also want it to come through to a desk phone if I had that added, or I can actually do call forwarding to another user, which is great if I'm on vacation or having to be out of the office at short notice. The great thing about RingCentral in terms of configuration, it's been designed to be made easy. So not only users, but also team leaders, managers, site managers, all the way up to administrators can make changes easily rather than having to raise an IT ticket every time. But you can control what users can and can't do in terms of their extension settings, because some of you may be thinking right now, actually, I don't want users to do this, but it's okay. Everything within RingCentral is controllable in terms of what users can and can't do. So no worries on that front. So from a Teams direct routing perspective, we've covered user experience, we've covered extension management, as well as the fact that we're providing those experiences on a desktop app and a mobile app setting as well. Now, the thing to consider that, of course, as mentioned from an administration perspective, as well as from a roadmap perspective, we are focusing both on the user experience as well as how you control how these things all fit together. And those are some things we can talk about later on in the demonstration. But that's really is a key focus on how to manage these, as well as how do you track recordings? How do you keep a track of the performance of how callers are managing calls in Microsoft Teams? Are they missing calls? Are they being abandoned? Are they going to voicemail? As well as monitoring the quality of the calls that are being made on these endpoints to make sure that wherever users are, whether they're at home or in the office or in between, you can always make sure that they have the best experience by keeping a track of the data and the insight into how people are taking and making calls using Microsoft Teams and RingCentral. So we have conversations with customers every day about Microsoft Teams integration. And what we found is that there are some use cases that aren't necessarily the right fit for direct routing. And this is where our alternative integration can sometimes aid in facilitating some of those additional use cases. And that's also something I wanted to show you and some of the things that James highlighted earlier on in the presentation. So what we have within RingCentral, embedded within Microsoft Teams, is an embedded dialer. And because of this embedded dialer, we're able to make and receive calls without the phone system license and without direct routing. So if you're using E1 or E3 or an equivalent, you are able to use this integration. So if I wanted to call Carrie, for example, what we do here, when you launch a call, it leverages our companion app. Sorry, I'm just muting on both sides to stop my ears from bleeding. we're leveraging a desktop application to facilitate the voice leg of the call. This is also the same experience for mobile users as well. So people can initiate calls from the mobile app, and then it leverages the RingCentral mobile application to do that. Now, there are a couple of benefits which I'll take you through if using this option. We're able to leverage RingCentral's audio conferencing capability. So you can either schedule or make calls, make audio conferences ad hoc, both for internal and for external users. Something's there. So if you want to have an ad hoc conference call, those capabilities are available through this user experience, as well as the ability, if you wanted to, upscale to a video call. So RingCentral does provide a video calling service, but we have a lot of customers who have this turned off from a user permissions perspective, because if you're using Teams meetings and you want Teams meetings to be the only and will be the only platform to use to reduce any friction around adoption, then that's absolutely fine. We can make a permission, which would essentially render video invisible. But we do have some customers who have enabled RingCentral Video for some of their users, because just like for our voice service, we have 5.9's SLA. We also have 5.9's SLA on our video service as well. So it's always up. So really good to use for any external use cases, and also for even as a backup if there's any stability problems with the current meeting services. You have all the usual typical controls around hold and transfer. We do also support on-demand and automatic call recording. So if you're taking any inbound calls on call queues, we can record those calls automatically, as well as provide all the usual greetings, then have that stored on our platform, and then have that synchronized with your own storage if you wish. But we have other call controls outside of making an active call. So for example, if you have any sales teams or any marketing teams who need to be able to change their outbound caller ID on the fly, say if they're outbound dialing on a particular campaign, or IT support want to make an outbound call using the IT support number, or if someone just wants to use the main company number or just block outbound caller ID, users can do that on the fly. And we also provide a heads-up display to allow management of call delegation around handling of reception consoles. You can stack up to 9 calls in one go, so really good if you have multiple calls coming through at any one time. And also, I as a team leader, see Gloria's on a call right now, I as a team leader can actually monitor Gloria's call. So I'm her team leader, so I can help whisper, I can barge into the call to help her out, as well as take over the call to help her focus on the next call I can. So even in this scenario, there are certain use cases that we can provide and to provide for, with the extra benefits of not requiring a Microsoft Teams phone system add-on license, as well as leveraging RingCentral's 5.9's SLA for any call making abilities. We have had some customers who are working in scenarios of healthcare who really need this as an alternative backup in case there is any stability issues with regards to Microsoft Teams. So again, as James mentioned at the beginning, this is all about providing flexibility, and we're investing in all integration options to again continue that level of flexibility for you and for all of our customers, and it's going to continue definitely for the next few years. So let's come to this and let's zoom this out. So James, just before I move on, is there anything else you wanted to add in case I missed anything?
No, I think Chris, you've covered a lot of things well, and I think, like you say, I want to make that point that it's all about options, like you said at the end. We found customers taking that converged approach. Like some segments of the organisation, they need more stability. Some have actually niche use cases that Teams call handling control. That interface, that big interface that comes up, that's not really giving them the feature set they need. And then obviously the financial gain as well. Sometimes we see contractual discussions like of the extra licensing that you apply to Teams just to have a dialer. We can combat that as well with them, with the approach of the embedded dialer, and maybe only give executives or users that actually really need just to have one app, give them the phone system license to reduce that overhead. So yeah, I think you've covered it quite well in showing them two experiences, and hopefully it's been useful for the team.
Yeah, there were things we've still got a bit of time. There were some other areas I just wanted to highlight, because as I mentioned earlier on, as James mentioned, our roadmap is key, but it's both for user and for how you manage the users and how you manage the endpoints. So what we have here is our Cloud PBX portal. What this enables is the synchronization between your Microsoft 365 tenant and RingCentral. So what we have here, the user that I've been using, which is in Microsoft Teams, this is linked through to the SIP endpoint on RingCentral. So for every SIP endpoint that you have for Microsoft Teams on RingCentral, you need to synchronize it with the user. So this unified interface helps you to not only configure that, but also allows you to keep a track on how is everything going. We're all in green, so we're all good. So it's really good across the entire organization to manage how everything is going. Our next step in our roadmap is to actually consume this into our RingCentral admin experience, because we're taking the infrastructure as well as the management of that and bringing that even closer to how people can manage these endpoints, and effectively making it even more easier for users to do so. Now, of course, a lot of you may not realize is from an Active Directory integration perspective, we provide a lot of options. So even from a direct routing perspective, of course, your directory, your address books are all available. If you're using the non-direct routing integration option, we also integrate with your corporate directories directly into Microsoft 365. But you can also synchronize your Active Directory records with RingCentral, effectively employing direct auto provisioning of users. So not having to manage different sets of users. So that will definitely reduce a lot of burden on your admin staff on having, when people are coming, when people are going, what effectively happens is that they are automatically provisioned a RingCentral user account and an assigned number, so they can start on contacting their customers and receiving calls from customers as well. So all in all, we're trying to make this as easy as possible, whilst also retaining our security and our stability to make this really enterprise grade. So before I pass back onto the slides, James, is there anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, again, just to come across, and the conversation that we're typically having is what Teams users, if you're looking at Teams, actually just need internal voice, which actually need PSTN breakout with a DDI for the external PSTN people to call, so external clients to call them, we can bring into this portal. And then, like as Chris said, trying to deliver a really slick, clean end user experience is important. That's who the IT teams are delivering across the organization. But we take that step from management from end to end. So having the touch point to be able to create a user in Azure AD, it filters through then into this portal, pick up the settings. So it is really one-click join. We think of the leavers, joiners, movers process that you have deployed. We get in tune with that, and the organizations, how you actually onboard people is important to bring into this type of conversation. So that's as Chris said, it's simplifying that approach. It's consolidating it, and what I've been finding, it's really helping with that transition. Particular AG groups migrating to this new way of working, where we can do that now based on the portals that we provide.
Great, guys. Let me just jump in here. Really comprehensive presentation and really a great demo. Just super impressed to see how well the platform really integrates, and to see the UI, and also just knowing that you have this like great 5 nines platform all behind this, right? Which is really set apart from others too in the marketplace. Just one quick question. Let's say someone's super keen on getting into the platform. What's your recommendation and your experience, like with TaylorMade, of how a customer then can interact with you and kind of those first steps on that journey? What's your recommendation? Someone is keen to pick up the platform.
Yeah, I can take that, Rob. We've put a thank you and contact link directly into the following present of the end of this slide deck, which we can share as well with you guys. But really, make contact with us, and we start that initial discovery phase. So where are you on this Teams journey, on this digital transformation? Obviously, considering, like I said earlier on, what are your business initiatives? We try to map that back to that, with what you've got today, what your current challenges are, and then we can start to pull, with your input and organization's input, start to pull together designs. And we have a proven SE workflow process that allows us to do proof of concept testing, allows you to get hands on with the technology to make sure you've uncovered any of them niche use cases really getting under specifics for your particular organization. But yeah, that's what I would say is reach out based on some of the links that we've shared as a contact, as an initial step, and we're more than happy as a pre-sales team to get involved and talk about you and your organization individually.
Yeah, great for that. Again, really appreciate it. It's super nice to see you guys today. Thanks for joining us in from all the way to the UK, and again, I'm looking forward to having